Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Sharp, and I am an advocate for domestic violence awareness and prevention. And I wrote a book many years ago, and the name of it is called The End of November Growing Up with Domestic Violence, which can be found on Amazon. And it is my memoir detailing the events leading up and after of my mother's death caused by my father after many years of abuse. My siblings and I, we were orphans, unfortunately, as a result, and we lost both of our parents, our mother and our father, and our lives were changed dramatically. So I wrote this book with the hopes of helping people who are survivors of domestic violence, children who are the most silent of the victims of domestic violence. They stay quiet, even in adulthood, but I want you to know that to be encouraged that you are not alone, and see if you can be able to speak about what you've been through. It really helps to heal. Even if you don't speak to anyone that you know per se, I love therapy. I think therapy is great. You're able to speak to a professional who has been trained for years to be able to help you. So why not take advantage of that? Okay, without further ado, if you've been watching me, we are up to the chapter 14, which is entitled November 22nd. That was the date that I lost my mom. And because it's a heavy chapter, I cut it in half. And so now we're going to read the last half of it. But I'm just going to read the paragraph before just to get us back into the story. Something told me not to go downstairs. I had a strong feeling that as I walked down those stairs, my father would shoot me in the back. He was standing right next to me on my left side with the gun held down in his right hand. I was staring at the blood, and he was staring at me, waiting to see if I would go down. I'm just going to stop right there because I want you to know that, to give you a trigger warning, that this chapter is heavy. There are scenes of violence, and it might trigger someone. So I just want to let you know right now. And yeah, and I'll put that also in the video at the very beginning, so you'll see in the subject as a trigger warning. I was staring at the blood, and he was staring at me, waiting to see if I would go down. As much as I love my father, and as much as I know he loves me, I knew this man was going to shoot me once I turned my back and walked down the basement steps. He professed to love my mom, his wife of 17 years, and yet he just killed her. What would stop him from doing the same to me? Then, it seemed like some kind of force pulled him away from me and back to the yellow, bloodied rotary phone to call the police again. And that phone was in the kitchen. I swear, everything was occurring in slow motion. I myself moved slowly in order not to set my father off. I had to act like nothing just happened. He didn't just beat and shoot my mother to death. She wasn't lying in the basement bleeding out. As he continued with his call, I went straight to the coat closet and grabbed my siblings' coats and shoes and headed upstairs. Although I told them to go in my room, they were just milling around in mommy's bedroom. I don't know if it was her smell or her essence that still lingered there, but they were drawn to her bedroom. Well, the whole room had her signature all over it. The plush burgundy carpet was picked out by her, the satiny bedspread, and the light beige curtains. Flowers outlined in burgundy at the valance were made by her. So I could see why they just stood there at the foot of her bed. They were in shock at what they had just seen. I guided the two little ones to my bedroom. We really didn't interact verbally, besides me telling my 8-year-old sister to put her coat and shoes on fast. All the while, I extended my ear down to the kitchen to make sure my father was still distracted on the phone. I told Natalie to go over to our cousin's house, 2 houses away. My intention was to have at least one of us escape this hell and our father's wrath. I really didn't think my brother or I would survive this night. Like mice, my sister and I inched down the carpeted steps. Then I opened up the front door as slowly as possible because it had the habit of screeching with every move. At this point, my father wasn't at the phone anymore and I couldn't see him. He could have been in the basement again. I don't know. My heart went with my sister as she trekked into the night, over to our cousins. I thought about the danger of being outside at this time of night, but then I estimated that the danger inside was far greater than what she could experience out there. At any rate, the house was only a few feet away. I closed the door slowly, but not completely, and rushed upstairs to my baby brother. I bundled him up with his coat, hat, and shoes. Then I followed suit. I gathered him in my arms to head out, but not after first peeking down the stairwell to pinpoint my father's whereabouts. He didn't seem to be around, so I hurried through the front door. To my dismay, as soon as I stepped out the door, I could see my sister still standing on my cousin's porch in front of a locked door. Apparently, our cousin and her husband double locked the door as they always did at night and were searching for the key. I rushed over there with my brother in my arms as fast and quietly as I could. No one was outside on our block to ask for help. It was as if everyone was gone in the world, and the three of us were the only ones left behind. As I joined Natalie, our cousin came to the door. "What happened? Can you please open the door?" I pleaded, looking around. And I said this softly too. "We're trying to find the key," she said. Who locks themselves inside their house? I thought to myself. At that moment, my father came out of our house with his gun in hand, looking around, screaming my name, "Nicole, Nicole!" He must have been searching for all of us in the house. For a moment, he looked dead in the direction of the three of us, but he never saw us. He just kept on screaming my name, "Nicole, Nicole," with that gun in his right hand. I held my little brother's mouth so he wouldn't make a sound, and my sister already knew to stay quiet. 6 enlarged, terrified eyes stared at my father. 3 heartbeats trembled uncontrollably. We just wanted to live. Interestingly enough, there was no reason for our father not to see us. Our porch light was on, and so was the house next door, and so was our cousin's. Also, every house on the block had its own beautiful holly tree. Of all the features of our block, this was the one that gave it real character. So when our new next door neighbors cut down their holly, this is the house that was in between our house and our cousin's house. When they cut down their holly tree, we were mortified. How could they kill something so beautiful? What's wrong with them? We said. Even my father was against that decision. So that Friday night, there was nothing. No holly tree was in my father's way to block him from seeing the three of us huddled together, staring dead at him as he stared at us. When I first came out on the porch, I saw my sister standing there as plain as day. So why couldn't he? Without a doubt, I believe God protected us that night. There was no other explanation. It was supernatural. God delivered all 3 of us from our father that night. As we clustered together in front of our cousin's house for what felt like an eternity, my cousin's husband finally returned to the door, fiddling with the keys. He asked us, "What happened?" I whispered and begged, "Please open the door." I looked back to see if my father, who now made his way down the path of our front lawn, heard me. I felt that he did, and he looked toward our direction. But at that moment, the door opened and we all rushed in like raging water through a broken dam. Close the doors quick, lock the doors, I begged. Our cousin and her husband watched us in terror and asked, what happened? Finally, I was able to release everything from the night that I had been holding in calmly as my mother lay dying in our basement. I felt like screaming an endless scream with my outstretched arms as if I were in the middle of Grand Canyon. I put my brother down, and in between asthmatic wailing and tears and more crying, the words finally came out. Daddy killed mommy. My cousin's husband proclaimed that he was going to go over there to see what happened. I advised him not to because my father had a loaded gun and lots of bullets. He still insisted and made his way over there. He found my father in the basement over my mother's body. Minutes after that, the police officers my father called poured into our house, and ordered both my father and my cousin's husband to the ground. And this is what I heard afterwards. The police eventually spilled over into my cousin's home. All you can see was a sea of blue and speckles of suited men everywhere. The sirens kept blaring and the red and blue lights kept piercing through the living room window. An officer brought my cousin's husband over to confirm his identity. Although my cousin was yelling, that's my husband, that's my husband, they only wanted my confirmation as the oldest witness in the murder. Although I didn't actually see the murder, I was present, so I was a key witness. I confirmed his identity, and then they let him go. A female officer was assigned to my siblings and I, of course. She sat us down and gently asked what happened. My little sister looked at me with tear-drenched eyes while everyone around us bustled back and forth. The first words that she spoke to me since she saw the murder were, Nicole, why did Daddy kill Mommy? I don't know, Natalie. I don't know. That was all I could offer her. I remember looking over at my 3-year-old brother, who couldn't speak as yet due to the traumatic environment he was subjected to. Silence descended, and all I saw was one teardrop stretched and trailing from his eye. His little face, complete with flushed pink cheeks, pleaded to me. At that moment, I felt him call me Mommy, and I felt the child in me leave. So that's the end of that chapter, November 22nd. And the next one is part 2 of the book, The Aftermath. It's just thinking back to that day and seeing my little brother, 3-year-old, who couldn't speak, look at me with his eyes, and his eyes was saying everything. And to have one tear fall down his eye broke my heart. Yeah, I felt the child in me leave. I had to take the responsibility now of parents. And life was not going to be any easier. It was going to be so much harder for the 3 of us in the aftermath. I want to just speak briefly on the supernatural things that occurred that night. As I mentioned, my father being blinded to us, not being able to see us. I know that was the Lord. I know that was God. Also, too, what I didn't mention in the book is, and this is a reality, I heard a voice guiding me throughout the night, telling me what to do after the murder. When I saw my brother and sister downstairs, I had them come upstairs with me, and I heard a voice tell me to take them into my room and to sit down and wait. And I sat down. We all sat down on my bed and waited. And then I heard a voice say, go downstairs, get their coats and their shoes, all of our coats and shoes, and come upstairs. So I went downstairs to the closet by the front door, got all of our coats and shoes in my arms, closed the closet door, and went back upstairs. And then I heard the voice say, now wait. And I waited, and I can't tell you the time period between every time I heard the voice. Then I waited for the voice to tell me something again. And then it told me, put on your sister's shoes, coat, take her downstairs so she can go next door to your cousin's house. I could hear this voice clear as day. And I did exactly that. Then I went back upstairs to my brother, and then I heard, now wait. So my brother and I, you know, I put on his coat and shoes. The voice did direct me to put on his coat and shoes too, and mine as well, and sit down there and wait. And then we waited. Like I said, I don't know how much time lasted between every time I was told something by this voice. And then I heard the voice say, now go downstairs, go outside, go to your cousin's house with your brother. And so I did that. And that's when I saw my sister still outside, and I started ringing the bell some more for them to come quicker and to find the key. Even the fact that they couldn't find their key was just so weird. Anyone who knows, knows. Anyone who understands, understands. That was a supernatural night, a supernatural event, series of events. And as a child, I could feel presences that I couldn't see. That night, I just felt a whole host of presences just flying around, for lack of a better terminology, just flying around, just filling up the place, presences. And I knew that that was the voice of God. I didn't know God then, just a little bit from what I was able to read from the Bible on my own with my sister, as I mentioned in my book. But I knew that that was the voice of God. And that is my testimony. So I know that there is hope that comes from God, that if you go through this or something like this, or not even as difficult or as crazy, God will uphold you. He will sustain you. He will provide for you. He is God, and He is God alone, and there's no one like Him. And He has been carrying me and my brother and sister throughout our lives. We only stand because of Him. And that is our testimony. He became both our parents when we had none. He will never leave us or forsake us, and He will never leave you nor forsake you. Just know that God sees you. He is El Roi, the God who sees me. He sees you, and He loves you. And He will move everything to protect you and to save you and to keep you and to guide you. If you are an orphan, or if you are a victim of domestic violence, seek God. He will sustain you. He will provide for you. He will help you. I'm speaking from experience as a child who is an adult now, but who grew up witnessing domestic violence. It is an evil thing. Do not blame God. It comes from the enemy. And the enemy was able to use my father, who had these evil things about him, that the enemy was able to use as a tool against him and his family. So I just want to leave that with you. Be encouraged. God loves you, and He will protect you and guide you like He has with me and my brother and sister. Join me next week when we go to the second half, the aftermath, part 2 of the book. And the chapter is called Water is Thicker Than Blood Sometimes. Thank you again for tuning in. Take care.